Who are you outside of your achievements? You know, in today's world, too many people tie their self-worth and their value to achievements. You start to think things like, if I get this promotion, I'll finally be someone. You know, if I accomplish this thing, I'll finally feel like I'm enough. If I prove myself here, then I'll be deserving of love, or I'll be deserving of respect. But that's a trap. Without really realizing it, your goals stop becoming something you're working towards, and they become this thing that determines whether you matter or not. Look online, for example. All you see online is people winning. You know, you see people getting married, you know, buying their parents their dream car, retiring their family, you know, moving into penthouses in Miami, right? Celebrating championships. You see highlight after highlight after highlight, but no one talks about the morning after that. You know, no one talks about what happens when you wake up the next day and you're still you. Nobody talks about the people who worked just as hard and didn't get it, because we don't see that. We only see what's posted. We only see what's celebrated, and that slowly starts to shape what we believe is valuable. It shapes what we believe is meaningful, or what we think makes someone worthy. And without even realizing it, we start chasing achievements not because they align with who we are, but because we think they'll finally make us enough. But let me ask you something. If you were left alone, separate from your achievements, no titles, no followers, no income, no acceptance letters into your colleges, who are you? And if you don't know the answer to that, then you're not living as a person. You're almost a machine, you know, just chasing, producing, performing. You have no real soul attached to it. And that's why some people achieve everything they could have ever wanted. They retire their parents, they're a multi-billionaire, and still feel empty. Because they've built something, but not someone. And there's layers to this too. Like, what happens if you don't achieve it? You work for all these years, you sacrifice everything for this, and you put in all this effort when nobody sees it, but then it doesn't happen. So if you end up building your identity on this one goal, when that goal collapses, your identity collapses with it. That's why when a lot of people fail, they don't just feel disappointed in themselves. It feels personal. They think, instead of I failed, they think I am a failure. You know, they don't think that didn't work. They think I'm not enough. And that really shows something powerful, because it's not about the goal anymore. It's about identity. Like, think about interviews here, right? One of the most common questions in interviews is, describe yourself in 30 seconds. And what do people say? They say, oh yeah, and I'm guilty of this too. They say, oh, I was the president of this club, or I was the captain of this sports team. I founded this program. I achieved this milestones. Things like this. Those are not descriptions of who you are. Those are descriptions of what you've done. Those are achievements. Those achievements are events. Your identity is a character. So if you're stripped away of all of your achievements, stripped away of every award, every title, who is left? Like, what's left? Because we're so busy building something that you forget to build someone. You put all these years into performance, but almost no time into self-awareness. And when you start to depend on that performance, you know, it becomes conditional. You only feel good when you win. And then when you lose, you have this pit in you that's so deep, and you feel awful. Your emotional stability depends on the outcomes of your achievements, and that's unstable. It's a fragile and exhausting way of living. So who are you when no one's watching? Your character is internal. Your internal qualities can't be taken. If everything you built disappeared tomorrow, would you still respect the person in the mirror? You know, we live in this culture so obsessed with becoming something, you know, becoming rich, becoming famous, you know, becoming this great thing. But no one talks enough about becoming grounded. No one talks about becoming emotionally stable. You know, no one talks about becoming self-aware, because you need to become someone you actually enjoy being alone with. And that's why some people achieve everything they've ever wanted and they still feel that hole. You know, you can't build this image without ever having built the foundation to it. So spend some time and think about why you really want whatever your goals are right now. Is it really about those goals? Or is it what you think it says about you, or what people will think about you? Because if your goal is your proof, then without it you're nothing. That's such a dangerous way to live. Like, your goals should not replace who you are. They should not replace who you are. There's nothing wrong with ambition, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win or with wanting some achievements, right? But you can't build your identity on that performance. Your performance fluctuates. Life fluctuates. Results, they fluctuate. And if your worth fluctuates with that, you'll always be anxious. You'll always be trying to prove and perform. Real confidence doesn't come from these achievements. It comes from knowing yourself, from knowing your values and knowing your standards and knowing who you are when no one's around watching. That kind of identity doesn't collapse under failure. It's steady. It's constant, it's powerful. So, you can't be so hyperfixated on becoming something. You need to become someone. When those achievements, when that title fades, when all that's left is who you are, that has to be enough for you.